So there's two people this video is meant for. One is for the type A personality where they're going to watch this and say, well, I never thought about this. I actually do a lot of these things here myself. And the other person it's meant for is anybody that either dates a type A personality, works with a type A personality, or hires a type A personality. Because the reality of it is this. Type A personalities have a tendency of building big businesses, big empires, but they also have a tendency of breaking a lot of things. So today we're going to talk about 14 temptations of type A personalities. So before I get into today's episode, if you're visiting Valuetainment for the very first time, this is the #1 channel on YouTube for entrepreneurs. We have everything from startup to selling your business to hiring, firing, figuring out ways to scale, strategize, how to deal with a business partner, how do you work with family. All of that stuff is on this channel here. You can also find some interesting interviews that we have on Valuetainment as well. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Let me get right into the episode. 14 temptations of type A personalities. #1, winning at all costs. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't care about breaking the rules. I'm willing to break the law to win. So those regulations, laws that are in place, I'll cross the line to be able to win. I don't care. So compliance is not being looked at. Regulatory issues not being looked at. Investment into attorneys not being done. Investment into compliance is not being done because I don't care what's going to happen. It's winning at all costs. I used to compete with several guys that were willing to compete at all costs, and they did in the financial industry what wasn't good for the client. They lost their license for a decade. They took away their 66326 because it was winning at all costs. It's so tempting for type A personalities, but this could waste a decade of your career if you do that. So #2, being overbearing. What is overbearing? Overbearing to me is working with somebody that nothing is ever good enough. It's like, oh my gosh, I just did what you told me to do. It's like, it's not enough yet. It's not as good. It's not that good yet. It's not this and that's not that. I don't know if this is good. And you're like, what can I ever do that's going to please you? But this is actually an area that investors and VCs and PE firms like because they're willing to go a certain level of expectations that others aren't willing to go to. Let me explain to you. I'm interviewing Patty McCord, the former chief talent officer of Netflix, of 14 years. She worked directly with Reed Hastings, helped the company go from 0 to $150 billion. She tells the story of the day they crossed 1 million users on subscribers to Netflix. She says, our chief operating officer comes in, she says, guess what? Our CMO comes in, guess what? What? We just crossed 1 million subscribers. Reed is there, she's there, everybody's like, oh, that's awesome. They're jumping around doing all this stuff. And Reed stops everybody and says, listen, this is great. You guys can celebrate, but I'm going for 5 million. He says, what? We just crossed 1 million. I don't care. You guys can do all the celebration we want. It's off to 5 million. It's like, are you out of your mind now? They're at 70, 80 million users worldwide. What happened there? That's the overbearing aspect. But the part I want to make a point here with the overbearing is there's overbearing to building something big that you're going for. Then there's overbearing where even day-to-day stuff that people do right, they don't get rewarded or recognized for it. That's the part that's a little bit difficult working with type A's. If you're watching this, you're a type A, just keep in mind that is an area that sometimes gets under people's skins. If they do something right, let them know that. #3, they get bored very easily. Now, this boredom isn't just they get bored and then they go do some dumb stuff. I'm not talking about that. The boredom I'm talking about is, so you come up with a strategy, hypothetically. You got the strategy that you're excited about, and you and your board came up with it, and here's what we're going to be doing, right? You got the plan, everybody's excited. You put this into action, but after a month, 2 months, you're bored out of your mind, you change the strategy again, and you change it again, and you change it again, and change it again. Instead of adjusting, you massively change it again. You're not giving it enough time to create momentum. It's almost like this. You buy mutual funds, say you buy stocks, bonds, you buy real estate, very quickly, oh, to make money on this, sell it, next thing, sell it, next thing. And then you're like, I'm not making any money, because there's a part of it that's like, you got to allow your strategy to brew and grow a little bit. When you're getting bored easily and you're changing stuff, you're not letting momentum come in your side. #4, temper tantrums. Temper tantrums are very common with this personality type. However, maturity sometimes comes sooner than later for some. I mean, when you talk about Bill Gates, he's known as having one of the biggest temper tantrums in Seattle. Everybody knew about it. They would say Steve Jobs had a temper tantrum, but some people that work closely with Bill Gates said his temper tantrums were horrible. So that's part of the type. And now what happens? As you age and you mature and you have a wife and kids and family happens, a little bit of that calms down, but it still shows up every once in a while, but you can have it more control if you're type A. #5. This is a tough one. And if I could tell you, there's a reason why people stop working with type A's, If there had to be a number one, this is probably one of the top ones. Here's what it is. Everything good they do that happens to the business, they did it, or they came up with it. But everything bad, other people did it. They can't stand taking responsibility. And he's like, you know, that person right there, let's just say something great happened, you know, that whole thing, and let's just say somebody else did it, not them. They will privately go campaign to everybody and tell them that I came up with that. Oh, you know, it's really me. You weren't in the meeting, but behind closed doors, I'm really the one that came up with that. I told them this, but you know, it's okay, it's okay. Then when that miserably fails, then guess what they say? Did you see what happened with that? I told them never to do this. I told them. I said, it's not a good idea, but they didn't listen to me. You know what? It's their fault. If they would have listened to me, this would have never happened. That's the part about type A that's the manipulative side. Sometimes that's extremely unattractive because it really brings out their insecurities, and it's not fun to be around when you do that. So if you do that, just be aware of this. If you work with a type A that does this, tell them to go watch this video. Hopefully they'll figure the part that you wanted them to get. Number 6, escaping from reality. Type A's have such an imagination where everything is possible, right? Oh, we can go do this, and we can go do that, and we can go do this, that sometimes type A's escape from reality due to them being bored. Could be drugs, alcohol, too much alcohol, because they have to have an escape. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so much pressure when you're building a business and you're a startup or an entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneur that there's got to be an escape. Sometimes the escape ends up hurting them and ruining everything that they spend years building just because they want to have an escape. This ends up hurting them. There's a lot of other escapes you can have that doesn't cause you to lose everything. You got to figure those things out for yourself. Number 7, neglecting health. I will tell you this, one of the best advice I got, I was 30 years old. And I met with a few friends, and one of my friends says, Pat, every 2 years, as a 30-year-old, you should go do executive health testing at UCLA Medical Center. There's got some good ones in Minnesota or here in Dallas. You spend $4,000. And from morning till night, they take you to different doctors. They check your heart, they check your bone, they check you for cancer, they check your liver, they check everything, triglycerides, cholesterol, all this stuff. And then you get a report and say, here's your health, here's what you need to improve, and there's recommendations. If you're above 30, I recommend you doing it every 2 years. If you're above 40, I recommend you doing it every 1 year, especially if you're hard charging. Your health is going to hurt you with a lot of momentum. And a lot of times type A is just kind of, oh, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's my teeth. It's my health. It's fine. I don't care. You got to really pay attention to this. This could really take momentum out of your business. Number 8 is sex. Here's the thing with sex. Driven, competitive, I want it all. High testosterone level comes with that. It's with the territory. And a lot of times, like, man, man, she's so pretty and she's so this. Like, even the people that are saying this, well, Pat, you know, you're acting as if, you know, everybody doesn't have the sex issue. Everybody has a sex. I have the sex issue. I wake up in the morning, I'm fired up. You know what I'm saying? As any man is like, oh, I'm ready to get into something, right? It's men. It's how we're wired. But also at the same time, there's a part of this that you got to control. There's systems for it, by the way, especially for those guys that are married. I have a certain system. I've taught hundreds of people that are personally mentored. It's not something I'm going to put on video, but I have talked about it many, many times. You got to figure out a way, because this has been a distraction for a lot of people over the years. Hopefully you can figure out a system that works for you. Number 9, wanting what's taken. Sometimes this goes with number 8, wanting what's taken. The challenge with wanting what's taken is sometimes you take it away from somebody that you are really going to piss off in a big way. And that person's vendetta is going to be to come after you. It could be years, but they're thinking about you. So sometimes at risk of wanting what's taken, I'm not telling you do it or don't do it. Just know what the repercussions are before you take something away from somebody. And by the way, keep this in mind. When it comes down to capitalism, in the world of capitalism, it's about competition. Whoever's able to wake up in the morning, go out there and, you know, do the best to get the best product to them, that's competition. But when I say wanting what's taken is, you know, somebody is married and somebody is this, and you going and trying to take something that's taken, that's a lifelong commitment from somebody to commit revenge to you if you don't do that part right. Number 10, looking down at people. This is a challenge. Sometimes type A's behind closed doors will be like, well, you know, listen, you know who I am. You know, no one's at my level. And that feeling of behind closed doors is also felt in open doors. People are like, man, when I'm around this person, he's so snobby, it's so annoying. Like, he doesn't think anybody's better than him. There's a big difference between confidence and arrogance. When you start looking down at people, guess what? People below you leave to go work for other people that look up and say, I think you could be one day even bigger than where I'm at right now. I think one day you could be the CEO, one day you could be the CMO, one day you could do here for the company. Then they keep those types of people. Looking down at people is a tough thing. It hurts a lot of type A folks. 11, thinking they can outsmart everyone. Look, I got 3 kids. I got a 7-year-old son who's very smart. And I tell him, he says, Daddy, am I smart? I said, you're smart. He reads books and he can recite the sentences, like stuff that's just very weird how he recites these sentences. I said, you're very smart, buddy, but Daddy's goal is to help you start transitioning from being smart to being wise. Wisdom is the reason why people follow folks half their age. If somebody is wise, no one says, oh, you're only 22 years old, I'm 44, I'll never work with you. People like to do business with people who are wise. Smart is short-term, wise is long-term. Smart is one-dimensional, wisdom is multidimensional. So there's a big difference between you thinking you can outsmart somebody, because here's the reality of it. As smart as you may be, there's somebody smarter than you out there. But if you think wise, you'll be able to attract smart people that want to work with you. Sometimes if you think you're the smartest person, other smart people don't want to work with you. But if you're wise, smart people can be around you and say, you know what, I don't mind working with this guy. He seems very wise. The way I work with him, I can still have my own identity. It works. Sometimes that hurts them. Number 12, entitlement. Hey, because I've won in the past. Do you know what I did in my last company? Look at my resume. Do you realize who I am? Do you know my name? Do you know what I've done in my life? You want me to go and start working from the bottom? You're out of your mind. I'm never doing this. One of the reasons why I respect Arnold so much is when he was done being a governor and he went through his whole scandal, he wanted to go back into Hollywood. They asked him and they said, so what do you want to do with you going into Hollywood? He says, what movie are you going to do? He says, I got to go out there and earn my stripes like everybody else. He says, but what are you talking about? You've built so many great movies. He says, I know, but I'm starting all the way from the bottom again. I haven't acted for 8 years. I got to win these casting guys. I got to win the directors and the producers, but I'm going to go out there and work. And guess what happened? He came back up because he's willing to earn it again. Number 13, they don't know when to stop. Now, this is a good and a bad thing, right? Because a lot of people say, well, Elon doesn't know how to when to stop. You know, Kerkorian, the former founder of, the owner of MGM, he didn't know how to stop. 90 years old, he's still negotiating. John Wood, 99 years old. You know, you see some of these guys, they just don't know when to stop. That part is actually okay. But sometimes type A personalities, because they don't know when to stop, they also don't enjoy the journey. Sometimes you got to be able to stop and say, pretty cool what we're building here. You know what I'm saying? Like over here in the company, a lot of people will say, Pat, you know, we crossed 100,000, you didn't celebrate. We crossed $1 million, you didn't celebrate. We just crossed a certain top line revenue, you didn't really celebrate. We just crossed a major market, you didn't celebrate. Yeah, and sometimes it's good to have people around you say, hey, the board forced me the other day. The board's like, listen, hey, Patrick, we have invested into you. You need to go take a few days and take a break with you and your wife and kids. The board asked me to leave and go take a break. So I went to Breakers in West Palm Beach, had a great time right outside of Mar-a-Lago. We had a great time. And then Monaco for my 10-year anniversary. The board is saying, go. They're telling me to go. Why? Because sometimes we got to take a time out and say, this is pretty cool what we're building. Type A sometimes forget to do that. Last but not least is overspending. Overspending is money's coming in. I want to buy this, I want to buy that, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. Nothing wrong with getting yourself nice things. There's some people on social media that make you feel guilty if you get a Ferrari or a Lambo or a Rolls or a big house or any of this stuff. If it moves you, don't let anybody tell you don't go get them, because if it moves you to do bigger things, guess what? Go get them. You know, when Cuban made his first money, he went and bought a $500,000 membership to an airline, and he went and traveled all over the world. That was a driver to him. He went and cut a check and bought a $60 million check. That was a driver to him. Can you imagine if it wasn't a driver, if somebody said, it's not a good thing for you to go out there and buy the jets and the cars. What if I want to do it? Nothing wrong with that. But make sure you're not overspending to the point where you don't have the resources to keep your business in business when tough times come. Because when it comes, it's going to matter how much liquid cash you have to be able to survive the 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of tough times you could go with a business. Because ruckus and market and a lot of weird things can happen in the market at any point. If you're not prepared, you could be out of business. So those are the 14 temptations. Now, if you're watching this and saying, Pat, I want to go a little bit deeper into this topic, I did a video once called 32 Difficult Personalities to Work With in Business. 32 Difficult Personalities to Work With in Business. I'm going to put the thumbnail here. If you haven't watched it, click on the thumbnail. If it doesn't work when you're watching on your phone, go below in the description. You'll find a link. Go watch that as well. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the #1 channel on YouTube, please do so. You got any thoughts? Comment below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.